Well, hi, everyone. I'm Daniel Williams, Senior Editor at MGMA, host of the MGMA Podcast Network. And today, we've got a special treat. We are joined by one of my MGMA colleagues, Rebecca Halfhill. Rebecca is MGMA's new Product Support Strategist. You may be asking, what does that mean? We're going to get deep into that conversation today. And I'll just share with you her work focuses on helping organizational members use MGMA tools and resources, and we're going to explain some of those free benefits and some of the other benefits that are available to our MGMA organizational members. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It is so good to have you here. You and I have worked together for years now, and starting this past year, we all moved into some different roles. So I want to know a little bit about what you're doing now. I've seen you sitting in all kinds of places throughout the building over the years.
Everywhere.
I know. So what is, let me get this right, a product support strategist?
My role is to ensure that organizational members use all of the benefits that we have available to them. In an organizational membership, you've got a primary contact that works with our account managers, but you've also got all the other leaders and staff all over the organization that may or may not know what's available to them. So my job is to specifically help them investigate their educational offerings, their career center offerings, all of our tools, checklists, pay lists, all of those things that'll help them do their job every day.
Okay, let's add podcast to that, and we'll
Let's
have
do
a
that.
full suite. But that is something that's so interesting because we've done surveys and just anecdotally bumping into people at our live events, we'll ask them, hey, do you know about this product or this benefit? And a lot of times we hear no, and I've heard that several times on the podcast itself. And for our podcast listeners, they might be thinking, how is that possible? But for us, we're going, we need to bring better awareness. And that's what we're going to do today with your help. So let's look at it this way. How do you get help for members? How do they get that value quickly? What's the best way? And we're going to bring this up several times, but if they're going to get started, how do they even get to that point where they get to your help?
So the account manager is going to be the first point of contact for the organization's main contact. But once that introduction is made, then there's a variety of people in the organization that know to refer questions and requests for demonstrations and such my way. What we'd like to do is get the word out to the organization so that it's not just the main contact that understands all the offerings. We'd like to enable the leaders all over the organization to be able to connect their staff or delegate to me so that I can help their staff understand everything that's available to them and how to best use it. So in the first couple of weeks after a new organization has joined, my name and number and contact information is shared with them, along with details about what I can help with, which would be our MGMA training, which is a product specific to organizations for compliance training, our ACMPE board certification and fellowship products, all of our other certificates, as well as our member community and career center.
Okay, very cool. So let's just go through the process to make sure we're all clear on it for my edification, so I can help point people in the right direction, get them to you in the right way. So there's contact made between our organizational member team, and then they hand off to you at that point. They give your contact information to our MGMA members, and then they contact you. Do you ever reciprocate? Do you ever reach out and then contact?
So this is a new position, so we're investigating the best way to do that. So I have done some outreach and had some response. We also, the account managers love warm handoffs. So once they have engaged with maybe a new organizational member or connected with the main contact, they will pass along my name and phone number and let them know how I can help. So it's usually a warm handoff or a referral from another staff member. Until the people in the organization start to know who I am and how I can help, I don't expect that they would be reaching out to me.
Okay. And then I heard you mention when they're a new member. So is this more of an onboarding process? I know we've got a lot of existing organizational members. So is that contact being made with existing members as well?
So that's a really good question. As a new organizational member, you may not know anything about what's available. It's a part of the onboarding process, and usually what I help them with is just a one-time instance. So there's not long-term engagement with me. So I will introduce them to the products. I will give them tours and demos and how to use it. I'll get them added to the products or platforms where needed. And then the only long-term thing might be helping them get their staff engaged in the ACMPE process. But even that's going to be a short-term engagement.
Okay. So let's talk about sort of the discovery and focus stage. This is when you're first making contact. What are you listening for when you're having that conversation to really, because that's what we want to get away from at MGMA. We've had a lot of we call it the fire hose effect. We just give so much information, and you're really pinpointing where they need to focus initially. So what are some of the things you're listening for? What are you paying attention to so you can get them in the right space and they can take those first steps as opposed to, here's everything we do. And
all at once.
Yeah, and you go where you want to go.
So I'll ask the person some questions. I'll ask if their primary focus is getting their staff trained, if they're focused on saving money, if they're focused on hiring and training. So if they say, first of all, I just need to check compliance off my list, I'll point them to MGMA training. If they say, it's definitely the point in my fiscal year where I need to think about budgeting, how can you save me money? And I'll point them to practice savings. So depending on where they are in their cyclical year is where we will start. A lot of people do compliance training at a certain time every year. So if we can get them sorted out on that, they can check that off their list. If they need to save money on uniforms, introduce them to that program, they can check that off their list.
Yeah, that sounds great. I appreciate that. Now, I was looking at the information that you sent over to me, and I was going, I've been at MGMA almost 8 years, and I'm reading stuff here that I didn't even know we offered, and that probably says a lot about me, but it just shows that we've got a lot of great tools, a lot of great resources, but we don't always have great awareness of those, and we're going to do a lot better job of that. And our MGMA podcast listeners hear me say that we want to bring them that information so they know it's fully available to them. Let's walk through some of the support systems, some of those resources. I know you mentioned Career Center, MGMA training, the practice savings, and several others. Talk about some of those and really what you're looking to help facilitate to get our members educated, informed, certified in some cases, whatever it might be.
So we want to help the admins or the leaders in the organization. We want to help them do their job. So we have things that would be specific for leaders to help them delegate. And then we have things for all members of the organization, the leaders and the rest of the staff. So to help the leaders centralize and make compliance training easy, we have MGMA training, and they can assign or advise their staff to take certain courses, and then they can check the compliance training off their list for that particular calendar or fiscal year. We have a practice savings program where they can save money on uniforms and supplies up to 10%, but maybe what they're spending now. We can help them reduce the time to hire for new staff by 40%. We can help them save on supplies and uniforms, as I've mentioned. We can also help them save 20% on their translation services. Wow. So if we can help them check some of those things off their list, they can focus on other things. We also have a lot of educational offerings that a leader might be interested in. We have the PPMC, which is a credential that anybody who works there can earn. They put a few letters after their name, PPMC. The Principles of Practice Management is the name, and that gives them an overview of the entire life cycle of running a practice or part of a practice or a system. We also have the member community, which is a place for our members to connect with their peers, but also access experts. So if they're busy and they have a question, they don't understand what other practices might do to solve a problem, they put a question in the member community, and then their peers help them answer that, and then they can move on with their day.
Yeah, I just got an email today. I get notifications in the human resources and in the compliance communities. And there was a compliance question asked yesterday, and it was being answered today. And that's just the kind of dialogue that can take place in there. And that's really cool. One thing I wanted to come back to was the Career Center. We're recording this right at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
That's a time when people are going new year, new me, and they're looking at new horizons, or they have spots they need to fill in their organization. Talk about the Career Center. What should someone expect if they go out to that Career Center? What can they find out there?
So if you're a leader and you need to fill a spot, you can go to our Career Center, which is run on a platform that helps industries focus on their industry. So this is where healthcare people looking for a job are going to go to find a job. So you're going to get more exposure by using our Career Center. That's why we can save you time. The Career Center has saved some folks up to 40% of their time from the time that they post to the time that they hire. So people who are looking for a job in the healthcare center, in the healthcare industry, know to come to our Career Center to find a job.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. So that's one way to get a win. Let's talk about some other early wins someone could have if they're coming on board with MGMA. They make that contact, then they communicate with you. Where do you see some easy with quote marks, early wins there for our members who are talking to you and then utilizing those tools and resources?
I think that there's a lot of educational resources that will help both leaders and staff in an organization. There's the PPMC that will help, I think, level set if you have every new hire. Obviously, non-clinical hires, and depending on what their position is, but if everybody's taken the PPMC, everybody's speaking the same language, then of course we have our compliance courses. And again, if everybody's taken the same one in the same space of time, everybody has the same language and point of reference. We also have webinars all over the place. We've got your podcasts all over the place, but we have several standalone certificates in a wide variety of topic areas. And then we have, of course, our board certification. So an early win would be for a leader to get their compliance training out of the way and then say, here's how we want you to get ready to start your new job. Go to MGMA, look at these webinars, take that certificate course, go to the member community, browse around our specific vertical, and see what you can find. Early wins, I think, for most professionals in healthcare would be, again, the PPMC, because they most likely know it, but they can earn a credential that makes them promotable and marketable. Networking in the community. I've been at MGMA for total of 10 and a half years, and I have seen people who have met in the member community connect at an in-person conference and create a lifelong professional mentee relationship, professional peer relationship. It's pretty amazing because if you think about it, especially in small practices, they're the only person doing their job.
Right.
And to talk to other people that finally understand their language feels good.
That is so cool that you're saying that, because I had a conversation with one of our practice managers earlier today, and it so echoes exactly what you're saying, that there are so many kind of tangible resources, maybe a certification, maybe it's something else that you're getting back from your MGMA membership, but it's those kind of intangibles, a friendship, a networking opportunity, the ability to find a mentor or have a mentee. There are just so many good opportunities like that, and to have that feeling that I'm not alone in this. I am meeting a peer who they might be across the country, but they have a very similar structured practice, maybe in the same specialty.
Exactly.
And they're speaking the same language, and it's really cool. And I love getting to talk to people and seeing their energy at our face-to-face events, and you really get to see people who have connected through MGMA. And I think that's a valuable resource that we have. Yeah.
I think another way that they network is through the ACMPE process when they're pursuing their board certification to become a CMPE or their fellowship with ACMPE, because we have communities specific to those that are studying. need help, and also those people who have become a fellow and they want to help. So one of my calls that I've had recently is talking to somebody that was new to MGMA, super excited about being board certified, and just walking them through that process. What do they need to do first, second, third, fourth, and highlighting the value of that member community and the study groups they can find there, and then the camaraderie, because once you're in a class of CMPEs, so then you're going to walk across the stage at leaders conference together, and that's another way to network with your peers.
Yeah. Again, echoes a earlier conversation I had today, and I just love that people are making those connections. One of the things I want to shift to is so many of the people that I talk to through the podcast are individual members, and I'm learning stuff here talking to you about organizational membership. One of those ways, like when I'm talking to someone who's an individual member, we're providing resources and tools for them. When we have an organizational membership, there's also that opportunity for the other people in the organization. So talk about that downstream. How do you make that connection, provide them with the kind of resources they need that they can identify that, hey, I've got this group of people in Department XYZ. They really need that compliance training. They really need that whatever it might be. Talk about that, where it's not just about the individual and what they can do, but it's also about these teams as well.
What we'd like to do is make use of MGMA and its resources systemic in their organization. And so the account managers are going to be dealing with their main contact, but what I'd like to do is work with those other leaders in the organization so that our tools and resources and their value spread like wildfire. Mm-hmm. So ideally, the main contact would tell us or me, these are the department heads. Get with them so that they all know how to use the compliance training, and get with them to find out if they want their teams to pursue board certification, or get with them to show them how to use the career center. So in a large system, it's like several practices within it, and there's a wide variety of people who are responsible for a wide variety of things. So we want MGMA to be one of those tools that's just institutionalized in these systems, so that if they're asked to do something that's a little outside their comfort zone, they'll come to us first. As an organizational member, I know I have access to these things, and they have more than one person at MGMA that they can call and ask for help.
Okay. We're coming full circle on this conversation, and the next question I want to ask you is, so you're gathering information, you're helping those members identify what they need, but how does that member feedback get to those product teams, the ones who have the resources, the tools, whatever it may be?
So that's the second part of my job, is to take that feedback and get it to where it needs in MGMA. We've got a system in place that if I hear feedback or a request for an enhancement, or I hear about a particular problem more than a few times and I can confirm that that is something that needs to be corrected, we've got a system in place where I can enter that information into the system, and the right groups of people look at it and they put it on the to-do list, so to speak, when it's time to do that. So we are a customer member-centric organization, and we can't do what we need to without their feedback and their comments. It's important to us. So that's one of the reasons this position was created, is so that we can get that information from the members directly into the parts of the various product owners' areas that it needs to be.
Yeah. Question that you're probably not expecting, but are you a Star Trek fan? Did you ever
am.
Yeah. So, if you go back to the original show, and you have Kirk, and you have Spock, and they're kind of the two sides of the psyche. And I'm a Kirk guy. It's all emotional. It's touchy-feely. It's right on the surface. And that's how I've been rolling most of my life. But what I'm learning in healthcare is, as opposed to in other parts of industries that I've covered previously, we got to measure stuff in healthcare. You got to have an ROI. You got to have data points. So if organizational members are making the investment in MGMA, what's the ROI? What are some data points? What should they be looking at to say, this was worth it? We got something out of this.
if they engage in the wide variety of practice savings programs that we have, they can see savings right away, and they can save, in some cases, depending on the size of the organization, they can save enough to pay for next year's membership.
Okay.
So that's almost immediate. The time that they save in getting their compliance training taken care of in one place also is an ROI. The number of staff that become more capable and more informed and have a wider skill set because of the resources we have at MGMA is also measurable. The Career Center, if they can show upstream that when I need to fill a position, I post it here and it happens quickly and I get great candidates, that's also a demonstrated return on investment.
Rebecca Halfhill, thank you for joining us on the MGMA
Thank you
podcast.
for having me.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing the information and the work you're doing with our members.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Daniel.
You got it. All right, everyone. We have been joined today by Rebecca Halfhill. We've been talking about organizational member benefits, how to receive them, how you can best identify what resources are out there that fit what you need. If you've got more questions about that, you can email Rebecca at rhalfhill@mgma.com. I'm going to put that in the episode show notes as well. So until then, thank you so much for being MGMA podcast listeners.